Well, hello everybody. It is Wednesday, June 16th. It's an interesting day for me because it was a year ago I arrived at the place I'm currently living and will be living for another couple more months before I return to Santa Fe. Can't wait. So that's not any of your concern though. Let's look at DraftKings. You're probably a lot more interested in that and I don't blame you. So this is a company that's in the news today, and I will turn to that in just a minute. But let's just review a little bit what has happened here. So this is a SPAC, okay? And it's a special purpose acquisition company, which they do have a lot of problems in. So basically what a SPAC is, I'll review that. It's a company that's formed essentially as kind of a shell company, but they are formed in order to identify a target company to acquire and then bring the acquisition public, but not via an IPO, just kind of by popping it into the existing company that IPO'd. So you see over here the SPAC, and I don't know what the SPAC's name was. They all have a different name. You can Google that if you're that curious about it, what it was called before it was called DraftKings. So they went public over here in, let's see, July 2019, so about 2 years ago. And I'm sure they had DraftKings in their site. Like I said, I don't really know the history of this one, but it looks like they had DraftKings in their site. They brought it under the fold and actually brought a couple other companies under the fold at the same time and brought the whole thing to the public markets. So price-wise, you see what happened here. It brought that public in December 2019. So over here, had a nice little run up to the beginning of March 2020, and oops, what happened that month? Yeah, had the pullback here, and then the big run up kind of during the thick of things, during COVID. We're looking at a weekly chart here. You know what happened during that era. You had people unemployed, you had their stimulus checks, you had people looking for entertainment. And by the way, this is, in case you don't know what this is, and I realize a lot of investors, people learning the stock market probably don't follow online gaming, online gambling. That's what this is. It's sports gaming, sports gambling. You could tell I don't care about the topic. I'm not a gambler. I am somewhat of a sports fan, but I really couldn't care less about betting on all this. I think it's, it's something people do. So we'll leave it at that. It's something people do. But you do see that the company had a big run up here in 2020. Then, let's see, this goes into the summer of 2020. And then again, kind of correcting a few times, but generally an upward trajectory. We'll pop over to a daily, and I'll show you why this caught my attention. So it was already in a consolidation. It gapped down yesterday 4.17%. It's a little bit higher today. Let's pop over to a 5-minute chart. So there's yesterday's gap down. And, a little bit of buying here. It never did close the gap. And then you see today there was a little bit of a run up. It is true that the Wall Street Bets crowd is involved with this one again, which I find rather amusing. Nothing against them, to be quite honest. So let me go back to the weekly. And before we delve into the price action today and yesterday, let me tell you my doubts about the company, and then I'll show you somebody else's doubts about the company. So look at this thing. Never profitable, okay? A string, well, not a string really. We had 2 years of unprofitability, 2019, 2020. Analysts expect losses again this year, losses again in 2022. String of quarterly losses right here. Now, revenue has been rising year over year. So that's solid. That's a good thing. And that's understandable though with more and more usage. This company is advertising. It's very, very prominent. They've struck up deals with a lot of other companies where they are likely to find an audience of sports bettors. So, I get that. That makes sense from the business case. But let's pop over here and we can take a look at why that gap down occurred. This is a note from a company called Hindenburg Research. Yes, they understand why they named themselves that way deliberately as a man-made vehicle that crashed and burned. This, despite the name research, they're not journalists, they're not analysts. This is a hedge fund that goes short, basically, is what it is. And here is their notes about what they perceive as wrong with DraftKings. You see right here, has been considered one of the most successful deals in a recent wave of SPAC transactions marred by scandal and bad actors. Okay, so that's not so bad right there. Kind of gives you the little history, merger of DraftKings, its SPAC sponsor, and a Bulgaria-based gaming technology called SB Tech. That was the one I was trying to think of earlier. Unbeknownst to investors, DraftKings' merger with SB Tech also brings exposure to extensive dealings in black market gaming, money laundering, and organized crime. Based on conversations with multiple former employees, a review of SEC and international filings, and inspection of back-end infrastructure at illicit gaming websites, we show that SB Tech has a long and ongoing record of operating in black markets. So that's kind of the crux of their argument here, is this SB Tech is a bad actor, operates in black markets, and there's perhaps some illicit activity. I'll be careful what words I use here, and that could, in effect, drag down DraftKings. Now, what we're also seeing is that the Wall Street Bets crowd perhaps disagrees with some of this. Remember, Wall Street Bets does not like the short sellers. They kind of consider themselves a gang against the people who bet against stocks. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic you have going on there. Let's go back over to the daily chart for DraftKings. So you see this was the downside action based on the Hindenburg report, and perhaps today, the buying, it could be Wall Street Bets. It could be institutions who disagree with Hindenburg, who have faith in the DraftKings story. But just wanted to show you this. I think this is a really good story to give you some idea of how fundamentals, technicals, and news events all kind of factor into what is happening with a stock. So that's my lesson for you today on DraftKings. Hope you found that valuable. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much. Appreciate you watching.